Well, good. Well, why don't we jump into it? And I know people will join, but that way we can, got great content to cover. And I want to welcome everyone. We've got the New York office on the line. We've got our U.S. capital markets. Rod, really appreciate everything that you've done, for our company, for the industry. We're going to be talking today about being a lighthouse in turbulent times. You are the epitome of that. I really consider you, first and foremost, of course, an incredible friend, but also mentor throughout my career. And Rod and I had the opportunity to meet through Bob Knakal, who I started my career with back when you wrote Brokers Who Dominate. And I'm looking for the year that what year was that, Rod?
It was released in 2012.
Okay, 2012. So I know that you were in touch with Bob clearly before that, but Bob was featured in the book and we quickly became students of your program. And it's been amazing to see how much your business has really grown and the impact that you've had. In addition to running the Massimo Group, you're also a best-selling author, speaker, and consultant. And I'm going to just read your mission statement, which is to assist independent contractors, solopreneurs, and small business owners in transforming their business and ultimately their lives. So, and I can, again, personally attest. And the last thing I'll say in the intro is, for a while, I was a weekly coaching client of your organization. And then once I was ready to make a move towards Davis & Young, I needed really to take a step back, do some business planning. You introduced me to one of your colleagues who a lot of the people on this call know well, Blaine Strickland. It was very helpful to kind of do that big 5-year plan. But, since really delivering on that at Davis & Young, got to the point in my career where I was spending too much time just on that, transaction treadmill, not taking a step back and working on my business. And you refer in this book, and everyone, this is going to be coming out in September. Knowing isn't doing, build a business and life you desire. But you sent me an advanced copy. And in this, you talk about Bob Topper. And I think I have a guess of who that was based on, but it's, for some of us who's been doing this for a long time, you say, oh, well, I know what I'm doing. Like, I've got it figured out. I don't need coaching. But then what happens is your calendar starts running your life. And I felt like I needed coaching more than ever being at home, because you'd think that I just have infinite amounts of free time. And yet suddenly my calendar started getting loaded up, where I was doing, listening to, a half a dozen webinars a day and board meetings and this and that. And I said, I got to get more proactive with my time. I got to get back and really start focusing on, what are some of the key metrics. And so I signed on. I've been working with one of your coaches on a weekly basis. In fact, I've got my call later this afternoon. So it's been really, really fun to re-engage and get my business back. So that's a really long intro. And but it's just huge thanks for everything that you've done for me personally, and again for many of the agents I know who are listening right now.
Well, James, it's always great, obviously, connecting with you, and it's a pleasure. And I want to thank everyone who's on this call. Heck, it's Friday afternoon and Memorial Day weekend, and you decided to invest some time with us, and so I can't thank you enough for that. One thing I will ask, and this is one thing I know James will make this a little more interactive than just he and I discussing, but one thing I will ask is, look, you can spend that time with us this afternoon and you can listen to us, and that'd be great. And then what's going to happen is nothing. And that's a fact. Nothing is going to change. So I don't want you to listen to us today. What I would ask instead is, what are you listening for? So exactly what are you listening for? I know there's a chat. I know we all know Zoom by heart now. So I know there's a chat box. Go out there, be proactive. Tell us, what are you listening for? If you're listening for something, for some approach, some solution, some whatever, we'll deliver that. We will. If you're listening just to us to see what we talk about, you might catch something great. But this is a great time for you all. It's Friday afternoon. Be selfish. Be selfish and tell us, hey, I'm looking for this. and we'll talk about that. So James, I'm really excited to get started. Hopefully some folks will go out there and use the chat box. No one has stepped up yet, but use the chat box and tell us what they're listening for instead of to, and then we'll move from there. So James, let's get started.
Yeah, Rod, I really appreciate that because we want this to be interactive and people can definitely send us our questions throughout this on the Q&A. But yeah, let's see that chat box light up. You know, what would you like us to deliver on today? A lot of uncertainty on the market. Are you, wondering what should you be communicating to clients? What should you be doing to advance, your career? Get specific. And we'd love to cover that just to make it as useful as possible. So Rod, really appreciate that. So Rod, very early into this, a couple weeks, you put out a webinar, which I thought was incredibly helpful. It was entitled Being a Lighthouse in Uncertain Times. So I guess if you could kind of start with that, I mean, what was the takeaway from that? How can we be a lighthouse to our clients and build relationships for life at this challenging time?
Yeah, there's no doubt this is an uncertain time. And look, New York, for a lot of your listeners, and visitors here, New York is absolutely a turbulent market. We have clients throughout North America, throughout the world, but mostly in the United States. And every market is different. We recognize that. But if your focus right now, I know you don't want to hear this probably, but your focus is to become a transaction facilitator, you're not going to get a lot of traction. You're just not. Right? You got to be not facilitator, but more of a advisor, a resource out there to everything, something every day. There's something that, look, I'm put it this way. Every day is something that you can help your prospects, your audience, your followers with. This is where a lot of brokers, I use that term, although that commoditizes you, and I don't want to use that. You all are, you're the best of the best. You're Avison Young, you're on James's team. You guys know what the hell you're doing. But your role right now, more than ever before, is to take information, translate that in your own way, interpret that, and then apply it to your audience. And what does it mean to them? So think of every day something's coming out there. What does it mean to your audience? COVID-19, restrictions, opening up. You're all doing that already. Great. And I'll never do, one thing you find about me, I'll never say anything political. I just won't. I don't believe you should. But today, early this morning, I saw that Biden said that he wants to increase capital gains. At the same time, he wants to increase payroll. Well, that means that our margins will all go like this, right? But if in fact capital gains went up, it's going to happen anyway. We have to pay back for these stimulus packages. What does that mean to your audience? So my point is, James, is this. Our role right now as part of this group is not to think about transaction, because they'll come. They'll absolutely come. Think about, how can I be a resource to my client? And they recognize that's the person I want to work with. That's the person I build trust with. They're thinking about me, not themselves. So that's the role you have to be in right now.
Fantastic. So what are the opportunities right now? I mean, it's, when we're in the office, everyone's running around 100 miles an hour. It can be, challenging to get through to people. Are there opportunities at this time where people might have a better shot to connect with clients?
Sure. If you're a tenant rep, let's go there on the line, right? So if you're a tenant rep, what is there to worry about right now? Yeah, we're about reopening in most states. We are not quite yet in New York, but you're concerned about that. But what lessons can you learn on the tenant rep side from one city to the next to apply? What does reopening up look like? By the way, what's their number one concern? It's not how they're going to pay their rent right now. It's the safety and health of my employees. So what can you do to address that? What can you do? For example, maybe instead of just going in by yourself, you go in with the folks in your organization and you grab a space planner and you grab an architect and you grab a contractor and you go into the team and say, look, we got to rethink your space and the utilization of your space and how that's going to work for you. You go in as that turnkey resource versus just another broker with an idea. Them to listen to you. Here's what we're finding out. It's working throughout the United States. This is how it can apply to your space, Mr. Tenant, Mrs. Tenant. That's one way to work. Now, go in your world, James. Now you're representing property owners. You're going to assume we're going to wait for a distressed marketplace, and with distress and turbulence becomes velocity. That's just going to happen. And just tangentially, folks, if you're worried that values are going to drop, because they potentially will in most markets, that's not your concern. It's just not. I mean, that's not your job. Your job is to transact. That's what you want. You want the transaction. It'd be great if it was higher from a commission standpoint, but you want the transaction. So that disruption is going to create transactions. But if you're representing an owner right now, an investor, he or she isn't necessarily thinking property value. They might be portfolio value. They could be. But I think the problem here is most brokers I'm seeing right now and saying, hey, would you like to do a BOV? Let's figure out what your property is worth so you can be in a more, let's say you can be in a better position to make a more educated decision. Let's just do a BOV. Well, the problem is, how do you know what it's worth today? How do you truly know? You know, it's funny, on the drive over, when I drove down, I talked to my financial advisor and he told me, and this is true, Rob, there's two people that know about the stock market. Those that don't know, and those that don't know, they don't know, which I think is true. And the same is true with commercial real estate values right now. You don't know. If you think you know, you don't know, you don't know. And that's the way it is. But what if instead, because I'm shocked advisors, brokers aren't doing this. It shocks me. What instead say, look, I don't know what your property's worth. I don't. But I do know, based on certain factors, history tells us this is the variance we're going to be seeing. So why don't we do this, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord? Why don't we jump in and do a wide range sensitivity analysis? You tell me the variables. We'll figure that out. Look at rent projections, unfortunately decline maybe, right? Look at values, unfortunately decline over a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year hold period. And let's show you what it takes, what information you need to make a decision today. Are you in a better position today based on the sensitivity analysis and these different scenarios to sell today, reinvest in something else, in another market maybe, at a better cap rate, probably, right? And in 5 years from now, or do you want to hold, go through this trough where we know we're going to go in, that's okay, and in 5 years, your property's worth this. That's a completely different approach than just saying, let me give you a BOV. It gives your clients just a sense of, wow, I didn't really look at my properties in all these different scenarios. And then, by the way, if they say yes, guess what happens? They open up their kimono to you. And now, I didn't realize the impact it had on this portfolio, that portfolio, this holdings. So now, James, now the world is your oyster. You get so many opportunities to work with them.
Awesome. Rod, you said a lot of incredible things just then, and starting with really leveraging the Avison Young global full service network. I mean, a lot of us think, well, okay, I'm a sales broker, I'm a leasing broker, so that's what I do, and that's what I'm there to find out about. But when you ask those questions and asking those owners where their pain points are, these are opportunities to kind of expand on the relationship, be helpful to them in their time of need. You know, the transactions will come later, to your point, but I really like what you said about the range, because we have not been doing that. And you're absolutely right. For us to sit here and tell an owner what their property's worth today, it's just, you know, finger in the wind, right? So, but looking in the past, and one thing we did for our sales report was we looked at peak to trough from 07 to 09, and to be able to tell clients, hey, look, last time when the market bottomed up, cap rates went up 80 basis points for residential, and office and retail went up 150 bips. So look, we're early on to this thing, you know, who knows, but could pricing move, you know, in that direction? And we know this isn't gonna, you know, just turn around overnight. So I think really helpful to kind of give some guidance and also range and speak historically. What should our brokers be asking owners when they call? When they call them to reach out? Yeah.
Three questions. These are three questions you need to ask right now. And it depends. I'll give you some, to say, variance based on how well you know somebody. Some of these questions, you're not going to know them at all. Some of these questions, you're going to have good relationships and you can deviate a little bit. So let's talk about that. Number one question you're going to ask when you get someone on the phone is, what's working? What's working right now? Because not all tenants have stopped paying rent. You know, not everyone's sick. It is what it is, right? So find out what's working. Always start out with something positive and reinforce. They may tell you, hell, you know what? I can pay my mortgage. By the way, if they tell you that, then you know that could be a problem, right? Then now you have something to learn about. So ask them what's working. share with them something's got to be working. Oh, nothing's working. Everything sucks. No, everything doesn't suck, right? Something is working. After that, based on how well you know them, give you 2 chances here. If you don't know them that well, you're just starting out, just ask them, okay, right now, what's the greatest challenge you're facing? Just what's the greatest challenge you're facing? That's an easy question to answer. And they may tell you, my tenants aren't paying rent, or I have no customers, or whatever you're representing out there, they're going to tell you. That's going to give you a glimpse of what's going on and how you can potentially help them. Now, if you know them really well, or you know them well enough, you can determine that. I can't. You can ask them, let me ask you a question. What keeps you up at night? What really keeps you up at night? And then you've got to be prepared for some really heavy stuff, right? You may hear something you're not prepared for. You know what, James? That's a great question. I got to tell you, I wasn't prepared for this stock market hit that we just took. And then on top of that, now my tenants aren't paying rent. I'm embarrassed to tell you this, James, but I'm not sure I can pay my mortgage. In fact, I'm digging into my 401k right now. I need something. Yeah. Is that horrible? Absolutely is. Sadly, does it mean you can help? Yeah, it does. It means you can. So that question.
Not to stop you, but that level of question and that level of transparency, I am assuming that's going to be someone you've known for 10, 20 years. This is someone you have a great relationship with. You're trusted. You've earned their trust. For those, we've got a lot of new agents on the call today, and Joe, who's our manager of our New York office, when we asked him what was he hoping to learn, he'd really like to get some advice for our newer agents. Let's say they've never, maybe they've spoken to the person once in the past. And Joe, we are going to get to your question also about, in New York, we actually can't even make cold calls right now. So I want to get to that down the line. And
I told you I wasn't going to get political. I said I wasn't going to get political.
But let's talk about if someone has a superficial relationship with someone. Yeah. They've called them in the past. They've either offered them space. Maybe they've never even met them in person. So how do your questions change for someone who you don't have that deep relationship with?
Yeah. Then if that's the case, you better be calling them for a reason, and it's not for your, right? It's for their value. That's the reason you're calling. So that conversation goes like this. Hey, James, the reason I'm calling is and James was making investors for your world right now. Many investors I'm talking to right now are challenged with the following, and you're going to figure out what that is. All your markets are going to be different. It just is. I was wondering if I could share with you what these challenges are, or I'm talking to many owners who are sharing with us what their challenges are. Do you have a few minutes where I can share with you what I'm hearing in the marketplace? First of all, they have a few minutes. Second of all, yes, they want to hear what you're saying, right? They want to hear what other challenges are. It's called community proof, social proof, just a mental trigger. So that will work. For the newbies, what that means is you're going to have to start learning from your seniors and asking in the office, where are people really challenged? If you're not ready to make that call and ask them where you're challenged, ask your team, ask your associates, what are you hearing? What challenges are you hearing about? That's all I want to know. I want to know what your deals, what are the challenges you're facing, right? Then use that language and go ahead and call someone and say, look, many of the investors we're talking to are challenged with right now, collecting rents. And I want to share a few minutes to share what we're hearing in the marketplace. Do you have a few minutes? They're going to tell you yes. And they can say, well, yes. Let me ask you, are you also challenged with collecting rents? No, my biggest challenge is actually this. Then you can just dive into it that way.
But Rod, and I really want to dig in here, right?
No, dig in.
So everyone's having challenges collecting rents right now, right? So that's not something, if I'm calling with a piece of valuable information, that's kind of stating the obvious. And I know you're just using it as an example, but let's get more specific. Would it be XYZ landlord collected 92% of office rents, but only 24% for retail? How are your collections? Or, hey, I just spoke to another owner who, what he's been doing is accepting half security deposit, half rent. He's tacking the rest on the background. I mean, I would assume that the more specific you can get, the better, right? Otherwise, they'll just say, yeah, no shit, pardon the French.
No. First of all, you must have a great coach, number one. Second of all, you're absolutely right. That was the third mental trigger, James, and you used it, is specificity or data. So yeah, if you can use that data, but for your newbies, the question was what the newbies would do. I'm not sure yet your newbies have that data. And if they do, great, then leverage it. Absolutely leverage it. So
we got another possibility, which we keep rolling out these webinars, and I keep telling the team, call the owners to let them know we have a webinar. So for example, week after next, we're going to do something on what's going on with the city and state budget and how that's going to affect property taxes. I haven't met one owner in my career who doesn't doesn't want to talk about how much they can't stand property taxes. So, it just opens up that discussion. So for one of our newbies calling and saying, hey, we have this piece of information, we're doing a webinar, we'd like to invite you to participate in it. On the front end, that might be a way to get them on the line, start a conversation with them, or after you've actually done the webinar and now you've got a couple talking points from that, call and follow up with them after and say, hey, in case you missed this, there was 3 pieces of information that I thought was really, helpful, and here's the link where you can go listen to it. How do you like that approach?
I like it, but let's plus that, okay? I like that a lot, but let's say that person says, okay, great, thanks so much. I'd love to be in a webinar, or no, I can't make it, I'm sick of Zoom, whatever it might be. So before you listen to the phone, say, look, great you can make it, or sorry you can't make it, but there's one question you like to be answered, what would it be? Ask them that. If there's one question you'd like to be answered, what would it be? And then maybe you ask that question yourself in that webinar, and then you report back to that owner, here's what I found out for you. That could be a powerful entry and a resource for someone like that.
And it gets them talking. Okay, I like that. I'm learning. I'm taking notes too. So, okay, good. So let's talk about why this time is so critical for everyone to work on their business than in the business. And our good friend Blaine Strickland, he talked about Disney, right? And he talks about their Floridian resort that's been at 100% occupancy since the day it opened. And the place is tired, but they've never been able to justify doing the renovations to that place because it's always full. So now they have a once in a lifetime opportunity to go in, renovate the whole thing, do whatever improvements. So, his advice, to me was, don't look back on this time and say, oh, well, I did a really good job of keeping my email blocks clear and, I had some good conversations, but what's the big initiative that you want to do? And maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's launching, your social media or whatever it is. But, what would you tell those listening right now about the importance of kind of accomplishing, those 90-day rocks that Gino Wickman talks about, like those long range, like quadrant 2 type stuff?
Yeah, this is the time to get off that treadmill because the treadmill's not moving very fast right now. Let's face it, the transaction treadmill you talked about earlier, James, and to really work on the business in a Michael Gerber, context, really work in the business, transaction, work on the business, your marketing plan, your strategy plan, your team, the operations, your CRM, your prospecting plan, campaigns. That's what this is all about. Because here's the biggest reason why, because that avatar or that client you had pre-COVID is not the same post-COVID. It just won't be. So that means now your messaging has to change, your approach has to change, everything's got to change. And you can determine what that's going to be and how you're going to do that. For the veterans on this phone call, one of the best things you can do right now, and we have our clients doing this, is that go back and just confirm every deal you ever did and every relationship that you have. Look at every historical deal you ever did, why they did what they did. Think about that, why they did what they did. So now you go back and you go to an owner, and I'll give you more reasons. You go to an owner and you say, look, 5 years ago, you bought this property because of this. Well, the world has changed a little bit. Now, I'm an optimist and think the world will come back in a couple of years to where we are, but that's just me. So how's that motivation change for you today? So it's both working on your business, but it's building your next pitch, your next offering, your value proposition for post-COVID re-entry. That's what it's doing. So number one, historical income is huge. Number two, I know our friend Bob Knackle is doing this because he put it out there on the social media, so it's not a confidential thing. But a lot of our clients are getting in their cars and driving their markets because they couldn't do it before, New York specifically for traffic, or because they just didn't have the time, or that's all gone. There's no excuse anymore. That I don't have time excuse is completely gone. So Get in your car, drive your market. Look at buildings a different way than CoStar can possibly show you, right? Look at them things differently. Look for opportunities. See what's happening. You can see distressed assets. You can look at different owners. Have apps like, I don't know, Landglide or something paying your market on your phone and looking up what's going on. Get out there. Look. Another thing to do is look at all your marketing material and messaging. That messaging that you had in February, it's not going to work. It's not going to work in July. It's not. So go back and look at your websites. If you have, well, for you all, go back and look at your LinkedIn profiles. What is that saying now? If you look at my LinkedIn profile in February, it's completely different than it is today. Completely different. Why? Because, and I don't want to get too heavy into LinkedIn here, but LinkedIn will tell you if you look at your profile, what messaging working and what's not. There are reports within LinkedIn that show you that. We found our messaging was going down. Well, first of all, when no one had money, no one's going to invest in coaching. That was one reason. Then now we've got a big uptick in coaching in the last 2 weeks. A couple of reasons. People are realizing things are going to change. We got to change, and we changed our messaging. We completely changed our messaging. So you should be looking at your messaging everywhere now. And is it resonating with your audience, or is it the same old stuff? It's not going to work. Those are 3 things. So historical income, number 1. Look at your messaging, number 2. Drive your market. Look at different buildings, number 3. There you go.
That's great. I love how specific the advice is. I just want to go back, to the last topic we covered, because we did have a question, or from early on, what Jamie was hoping to learn from this. And, I was just realizing, when we talk about, offering our firms full suite of services, well, guess what? That's what CBRE is saying. That's what JLL is saying. That's what Cushman's saying. And frankly, they probably say that they've got a bigger footprint and they can do it better than us. So how do we differentiate ourselves in that approach?
As far as AY or as far as you individually?
I would say, let's answer the question for AY as far as our capabilities.
Okay. And look, folks, total transparency, we got clients in every firm. We do. That's a fact. So whatever I would tell you, I'm going to tell them as far as this is how I differentiate AY, but not the same message. First of all, I don't know, James, I haven't read anywhere that you guys have cut anyone yet. Have you?
We've had, small layoffs, but yes, we're
okay. Small layoffs. Okay. So you've adapted. So why? You got to get beyond the AY situation. You got to go beyond AY and talk about you personally. Because look, are there firms that are going to have the safe bet with CBRE? I'm shocked, but there still are firms that want to make a safe bet with CBRE because they're the biggest. That's like the old IBM challenge back in the 80s. That you cannot offset that. Sorry, it's just those people. They're fearful for their jobs. They're based on safety, right? I think you got to look at more why would someone invest in AI or work with AI, either pre-COVID or post-COVID? So James, what's the value proposition of AI today? Forget COVID. COVID has nothing to do with it. How are you different than CBRE? I think if you're thinking that you have to be different in a different way, you don't. You don't. You guys are different for your own way. So yeah. James, you tell me, why is AI different? Why should I hire AI?
Well, it's a principal-led model. So rather than just getting, if we work for you, rather than you just getting handed off to someone, you have owners in the company who are going to give, all hands-on attention. You've got tons of expertise here, and it's really kind of that boutique full-service approach.
Okay, I love it. I agree with you, by the way. And you have plus you're going to have to, especially now, or any time, I don't think this has changed, let's say especially now, excuse me. James knows what I'm talking about, so I'll put it in non-Massimo terms. You better have a portfolio of track record, success stories, let's call them, right? That you can leverage going forward. If you're saying you have this all-service team, prove it to me. Prove it to me. Show me that you've applied this, even pre-COVID's fine, applied it to a tenant, if that's the case, or a landlord, and how it's worked. Do you have those success stories? If you don't, you just tell me this. You got to prove it though. So I'm assuming, you have to say about assumptions, but I'm assuming you all have those success stories, that you have this full service integrated approach that can help me as a property owner or tenant.
Yeah, I mean, one specific example is a lot of our clients, companies they need advice on how to open back up their office and what does the office, look like of the future. And we did do a webinar on the topic, and having Kirsten Beck in our New York office, who heads up project management, if you spent 5 minutes listening to what she had to say on that, you would know that she knows this stuff, inside and out, and it would be a huge resource. So,
Well,
um,
and hold on, then I'm assuming, James, you take that from a presence perspective, you take that audio of her saying that, and you would share that with other office users and say, "Look, here's a quick audio and 5 minutes on the best practices for opening your office." And now you're a resource, right?
I don't know if we have done that, so I'm adding another note on my things to do list, which I know is better than the or equally important as the things not to do. We'll get to that.
Right.
Okay, so now I want to get to your book, Knowing Isn't Doing, and I think this is really important, and you kind of alluded to it at the beginning of our conversation. So, what's the premise of the book?
Well, I wanted to share over the 12 years and the actually many careers that I've had in figuring things out and where to get there. For those who don't know me, in 2008, I was laid off. I was working for a small national commercial real estate firm as an executive, and I was laid off. And I was sitting in bed in 2008 saying, what the hell am I going to do? Because for those who don't know, you young guys, stock market went down 53% in the Great Recession. This time it went down about 20 something percent, right? Unemployment was an all-time low in 2008. Not like today, absolutely not, and not the acuteness that we've had. So in 2008, things were pretty crappy. They were, and it lasted, by the way, for about 18 months. I'm not sure this is going to last 18 months. We'll see. I'm not sure it is, by the way. But the point is this: I had to figure out really quickly, what can I do to build myself from me, right? The Massimo group, which was me 12 years ago, to get to the point where I've had 30 coaches, clients across the globe, team, and so forth. And those methodologies, we call them the Massimo methods. What do you got to do to get there? So this book was about taking all these methods, all these approaches, and saying, this is how you build your practice from 1 person to 40 to 50 to 100 or 1 person to 5. This is how you build the business you need to build to start having consistent income. Now, the reason I call it Knowing Isn't Doing, James, is because my sales guys went ballistic when they saw the book. They said, Rod, what the hell are you doing? You're putting yourself out of business. We're not going to make any sales. You're giving all it away. And I laugh because that's the title of the book. It's called Knowing Isn't Doing, because we know that. If I just share with you information, it doesn't mean jack. It just doesn't. Like this call, hopefully you'll take some advice. But otherwise, this is the difference between a broker and a real estate professional. This is it right here. One is information. Brokers give information, right? Real estate advisor, top producer, they provide the transformation. That's what coaching does. It provides a transformation. Anyone can provide information. Not everyone can provide transformation. So that was the premise of the book. How can we transform someone from struggling, like I was, unemployed, lost in the Great Recession, to building a company that, provides a pretty cool life.
Yeah, I love the book and looking forward to your full release in September on it. But I really liked how at the end of each chapter you had action items. It's now, okay, now do it. Don't just read about it. Okay, do it and report back. And I think that's a big part also about coaching is every week now I have to be accountable. If I say I'm going to do something, I have a check-in. Did I actually did I actually accomplish what I said I was going to do? Let's look at next week. What are my goals for next week? So really, really important. I think in this business, on one hand, being independent contractors, we get a lot of flexibility, right? A lot of time, and it's really incumbent on us to use it in the right way. On that note, you talk about your favorite quote, which is, "You will never find time for anything. If you want to make time, you have to make it." So talk about that in context to your I paid principle.
Sure. It's fact. Look, I can't, I can't believe when people tell me I'm too busy to do something, to grow, to whatever. How can you be too busy? Because you're responsible for your time. No one else is. You're an independent contractor. You just are. You're responsible for how you allow your time. If you're a junior, you're a senior, it's definitely telling you how to spend some time. I get that. But so we came up with this acronym, in fact, this approach to time, the approach today we call IPAID, I-P-A-I-D. And it goes like this, and it's much deeper in the book, but I'll give you a quick version. One is I, to identify. Identify everything you should do. By the way, your list is only allowed to be 10. That's it, believe it or not. If you have more time, sure, try to get the rest done. So you identify every day. And then P, prioritize. What are my 3 priorities I have to do? Now, we only have certain buckets of priorities. One's working in the business, transaction, on the business, growth, and personal. I do believe we don't spend enough time to prioritize personal. We get caught in the weeds. So identify, prioritize, A, allocate. Allocate resources. You have 3 resources. You have time, allocate in the calendar. You have money, capital, allocate that you need. And then you have people. That's the delegation part, people, right? So identify, prioritize, allocate. I is the hardest part. Implement, you got to do it now. That's the hard part, right? But if you allocate the right time and money and people, and on your calendar, you leave a lot of white space for the whirlwind that happens in this industry. It does. It's gonna be fine. And then the D part is to delegate or delete. I believe more in the delete lately, but delegate absolutely. And through the book, you learn why you should delegate, how it economically makes sense. But if you ask yourself every day, at the end of the day, was I paid today? Did I identify, prioritize, allocate, implement, and delegate or delete? You're gonna make a lot of money. Because it's going to force you to work on things that are going to make you a lot of money. And that's the point of iPay.
Awesome. Everyone listening, please start typing in your questions on the Q&A box. We'll answer them as they come up, but also, we'll leave time at the end. But anything that we're talking about, we want to, we want to get your response, or if you have any comments, what we're saying, if some of this makes sense or things that aren't working. We really want to make this as beneficial as possible. Rod, what you just talked about, just to kind of finish that off, and I referenced before, you're also a proponent of a not to-do list. We find ourselves always saying, okay, what am I prioritizing? But also, what am I doing that's, someone else could be doing? I know you outsource, you're a virtual assistant. I think you were famous to saying, if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, just really trying to figure out how to leverage your time. I know you're a big fan of establishing your hourly rate. So, figuring out your earnings, what is your time worth? And every time you do something, ask, is it worth it? Your coaching has helped me with my time map, thinking about how I spend my time, buckets of time and levels of priority. So really, really important stuff. Okay, so let's talk about prospecting, okay? Mm-hmm. And especially, and I'm going to make it more difficult because now we're talking about, and this will hopefully answer Joe's questions about the new agents who are making a first contact. To even make it more difficult, again, in New York, they can't even make an initial phone call before they get a request. So, do you set it up with an email? Is it a campaign to kind of, tee up that conversation? What's the advice for that?
Just for the newbies or for anybody?
Let's start with the newbies.
Okay, so for newbies, congratulations. You got a heads up on a lot of your seniors, because here's why. I don't mean seniors in age, I mean seniors in experience. Newbies is something called LinkedIn, which is an amazing, believe it or not, prospecting tool. It is. Don't think my prospects aren't on there. Don't think your decision makers are on there or their influencers aren't on there, because they are, because I know it, because I do it myself, and my team do it a lot more than I do myself. LinkedIn is an amazing tool, and you can have amazing conversations and connections. And there's 4 steps. 4 steps you got to know to LinkedIn. First of all, there's the content. That means your profile. Go back to what we talked about earlier in this conversation about the messaging. What does your profile look like? What's it about, right? So then you have the connection, making the connections. You all can do that, and it's easy to do and figure out who the connections are. Then there's the cultivation. That is where it comes to the communication discussions. And then there's the close, and you take it away from LinkedIn, making a phone call, getting the right to call somebody. DMing is big, and messaging on LinkedIn. It works a little bit on Facebook, and not as much. So newbies, don't discount LinkedIn. That's one thing that you have a heads up on. You just do, because the seasoned veterans just they don't believe in it, or they just don't want to do it. And by the way, seasoned veterans, you should not be doing it. You should be using your juniors to do it for you. So that's one. Secondly, you got to leverage your seniors. You just do, newbies. You got to leverage the seniors and find out everything that's going on, what they know, follow them, figure it out so you know what to say when you make client communication. You can do emails, right? But I think, look, I don't think, especially in New York, I don't think you're prohibited from doing letters right now. Are you James, prohibited from doing letters?
We can send emails, we can send letters, we can obviously do social media. You just can't pick up the phone and call someone who you've never spoken to before.
Yeah. So I do believe emails and letters for you guys, especially in New York, and even newbies, are really strong ways to just let someone know you'll be calling them outside of New York, or you have something of value to provide for them if you're in New York.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So I'm sending an email to a prospect, and the goal is for them to say, "Okay, you can call me." If the goal of the email is try to get them on the line, what would be an email? What would the message be that would prompt someone to say, "Sure thing, you can call me at 3 o'clock this afternoon"?
Okay, so write this down, guys. AIDA, AIDA, AIDA. Okay. There's a different AIDA that for guys my age that you learned about in the 80s, and Alec Baldwin did a great job of it, and Glengarry Glen Ross, but we're not going there. That was a great AIDA. It's a different AIDA. So either in the email or in the letter, I like letters because no one does letters anymore. And letters, you guys about differentiation. Letters are a significant differentiation. They can be typed, that's fine. But emails, everyone sends emails. So if I was coaching, I'd say, write the letter. I would tell you that right now. So letter or email, figure it out. Here's the format. Number one, attention. Grab their attention. What does that mean? You better figure out exactly what is important to them. Now, newbies, your seniors can tell you that. Seniors, through your conversations with your prospects that you should have been having in the last 2 months, all these conversations, you know what's bothering them. You do. And every week, something's gonna be different. This week I might write Biden, semicolon, increasing capital gains. I might do that if I was a capital markets guy. I might do that just to get someone's attention. They love Biden, hate Biden, doesn't matter to me. I want them to read my freaking email, right? But depends on what your issues are and how that stuff should be. So A, grab their attention. I, get them involved. Get them involved. There's a fantastic marketing guru named Donald Miller who wrote a couple of really good books. One's called Building Your Story Brand, and one's just came out. It's called Marketing Made Simple. But I spent 2 days with Donald Miller, and he shared with us a cadence, which we put in the book, James, and we talked about that many, we, so that format we talked about. The involvement statement could be something simple as, many landlords we're talking to right now are telling us this. Many intents we're talking to are worried about that. It's getting them involved. So get their attention, get them involved. Now is the point that James made earlier. Now give them specific data to validate why it's important to them. So James, about 92% of people say that, 24% of retail say this. Figure out what those data points are. 3 data points in an email, which are bullet points, or 3 data points in a letter, which are bullet points. That's the data. Got it? Attention, involvement, data. Share them data. And A, the last A is your action. What are you going to do next? If you're going to call them, tell them you're going to call them. I'm going to call you on Tuesday afternoon. I'm calling you on Wednesday evening. I'm calling you on Sunday morning. Well, not Sunday morning, but you could call them on Sunday afternoon. You could, just let you know. So I'm going to call you then. You give the action. Or if you're in New York, look, you know the regulations. I cannot call you, but if you want to talk to me, here's my cell number. Give me your freaking cell number. Stop worrying about getting spammed. Give me your cell number. Here's my direct line. Love to talk to you. That's where I am. By the way, if you send out a letter, science proves that the 3 things they're going to look at, 3 things, and if they throw it out, are the regarding, right? Regarding Biden, semicolon, increasing capital gains. They're going to read that. They're going to read the 3 bullet points, the data points. So they better be good and strong and validate why you're writing. And then they're going to read the PS. The PS, they're always going to read. And that better be something that reinforces the value proposition that you're throwing in there, right? That's the essence. So that's what you should be doing, newbies and seasoned veterans. you should be doing that, having your newbies do that for you, having your admins do that for you as well. I will tell you right now, if any of you have ever connected with me on LinkedIn, for example, I didn't write you back. Now, did my account write you back? Yes. But I personally write you back? No. My team does that for me. And then they'll tell me, Rod, you need to get involved with somebody after the conversation gets to a point. And for your mid-careers and seasoned veterans, that's what we're saying. There's a great, I'm a junkie at getting coached. I love getting coached. I probably do it too much, frankly. But one of my coaches once told me, it was Dan Sullivan up in Canada. He told me, stop thinking about the how and start focusing on the who. And so I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I gonna do? That's all I would think about all day long. Rod, focus on who. And that changed everything. Oh, I don't have to do this, do I? Someone else can do it for me. I can pay them. This is great. And that's how it worked out. So that's how I do it, James. That's one way I would go with there.
That's really, that's awesome. Okay. And let's talk about this. No cold calling. This is a temporary thing. Once we open up, business, I got to imagine we'll be back to being, dialing for dollars. So you also in your book listed a bunch of don'ts, and you said, don't ask them if you're calling at a good time. And also don't ask yes or no questions. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, look, if you're asking closed-ended questions, now there's a time to ask closed-ended questions. We talk about that in the book as well. There is, but it's not when you're calling someone. All you're doing, and look, this is a problem. It means that if you're asking these questions, it means one to two things. One, you don't have a good reason to call and you're looking for an out. And if that's the case, you shouldn't be calling, right? Not a good mindset. It isn't. Or number two, you're not confident enough in yourself to make the call, which I'm telling you is also a problem. But that's okay. There are ways around that. That's not an issue. So don't ask questions that are going to potentially give you a no or give you an excuse for them to hang up, because what you're really doing is telling yourself, I don't want to make this phone call. I have nothing to add value for. Now, some of you don't know this or recognize this, but guess what? It's your freaking responsibility to call people and tell them what they can do to move forward. It's your responsibility. It's your duty, in fact, as an AUI advisor to say, look, there are things going on in this market that you're not sure about that you need to be aware of because it impacts you, your life, your family, your desires, your dreams. You need to make those calls. And when you get to that understanding that it's your duty to do it, then the calls become a lot easier versus I have to do this. No, then I would say, look at a different career. Sorry to be so blunt and a coach, but find someone else then, because you should be proud of what you do. You really should be. So James, let me give you guys something that's not in the book that works. How's that? Can I give you that one for a phone call? Ready, James?
Absolutely.
Okay, so guys, here's an approach we learned by a vendor we were working with. He said, hey, try this approach on you, Rod. So my sales guy said they're not doing it. It's too salesy, never going to do it. And I said, guys, let's try it. And now they can't stop doing it because all they get is yeses, right? All they get is yeses for permission to have a conversation. And this is how the approach works. James, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. James, I'm calling you. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, James. Hey, James, this is Rod from the Massimo Group. Look, I really know I'm interrupting you, but I was only hoping for 27 seconds of your time so I can share with you how we're working with other brokers in New York who are getting specifically more market share.
Okay.
Stop.
Yeah.
Break down what I did. It's really important, folks. I want you all, I hope you take some things away from this thing, obviously, but this thing works. Imagine you're calling someone and you say just that. You'd never ask permission. Hey, is this a good time to catch it? No, you just jump right in. Hey, this is so-and-so from AY. I know I'm interrupting you because every call you make, you are interrupting them. Unless it's a scheduled call, you're interrupting your prospect. It's guaranteed. So when you acknowledge it, the prospect then goes, okay, at least they acknowledge that they're interrupting me. It happens. I'm telling you, it just happens. And then when you say, I was hoping for 27 seconds, that's the next start. If I said, hey, James, can I have 30 seconds? What would you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I do. That sounds It sounds a little longer, I guess. At least it's going to be
Well,
quick, painless.
30 seconds, BS. That could be 5 minutes. I could, what's everyone's 30 seconds of my time? When you ask for 27 seconds, your prospect's mind says, I got a specific time. That's all I need in my mind is 27 seconds. Get rid of this fool. I'll give it to him. That's what they're thinking, right? And then to share with you this, that sharing part better be of value. Why would I give someone 27 seconds? You better share with them exactly what that's going to be. So break it down like that. This is in the book. So break it down like that. Hey, I know I'm interrupting you. Eases them off. 27 seconds, eases them off. Share with you value? Yeah, go ahead. Now, what we get a lot of is, now, by the way, we get 96% yeses on this opening statement. 96% yeses on this opening statement when we do it. And our guys make thousands of calls every single week. Now, they've gone down during the COVID for fraud reasons, but about 1,000, 1,500 calls every week. So think of the numbers. So then you give them something of value, but here's what they also might say. Okay, I'm giving you 27 seconds, go. You better have a good 27-second pitch. Not 15 seconds, not 20 seconds, that's too short. You asked for 27 seconds. You better tell them exactly what's going on. So you might say, hey Rod, hey James, this is Rod with AY. I know I'm interrupting you. I just was hoping for 27 seconds to share with you the recent transaction that happened on your street and how it might impact the value of your property. Oh, okay, go ahead. So-and-so sold for this much, at that much, trending down. Market rate tells this, therefore cap rates now being at this. Based on your property, when you bought it, it might mean an increased value of X, Y, or Z. In 27 seconds, you give them all that with some data. They may say, huh, that's interesting. And now you have a conversation. Now you start talking. So think about how you can use that approach in this phase of what's going on in the marketplace and what value you would share. You're gonna have a lot, and this is for the newbies too, by the way, you have a lot more conversations.
Fantastic. Look, we only have about 5 or so minutes left. So I want to do a little rapid fire on the questions that we have from our audience. But any advice on getting around the gatekeepers? So, I mean, right now we're mostly calling people on their cell phones, but again, we're going to be back in the office soon. And when the receptionists answer, how do you get directly to the principal?
Well, if your value proposition is strong, you give them the same exact pitch you give to the principal. Same exact pitch. We discount gatekeepers. That's absolutely incorrect. Treat them as they're more valuable. Treat them kindly. Get their first names. Always get their first names. And next time you call, hey Gladys, hey Bob, hey Jane, this is so-and-so again. You're gonna get off their thing. But treat them with respect and treat them just like you would. And give them the same value. The reason I'm calling Joe is because of this. That's why. That's how you do it. It's proven to work.
Love it. Lisa from our Nashville office is asking about how to create a more balanced calendar that allows time for business development. Do you structure a daily, weekly timeline that helps you to be more efficient in your business? If so, can you share how you do that?
Yes. Every Sunday, I go through a checklist of things I needed to cover based on my goals. And that week I allocate, again, this is the A of IPAY. Someone asked the acronym, identify, prioritize, allocate, implement, delegate. This is the allocation part. I allocate blocks of time on my calendar that I will do certain things. Prospecting, I don't do prospecting, my team does, but I may have some other conversations, webinars and the like. But I always make sure when I look at my calendar from far, if I don't see a lot of white space that will allow for the whirlwind to happen, I know I'm gonna get in the weeds fast. So I always leave a lot of white space. I don't over schedule.
Okay, that being said, Ted from our Long Island office asks, do you have any advice for changes in time management now that we are trying to navigate through the work from home scenario we find ourselves in?
First of all, Ted, I'm a Stony Brook, Long Island boy, so Strong Island, I'm all 100% behind you. Love to hear it. Yeah, I mean, if you're working at home, I've been working at home for 16 years now, so I'm kind of used to it. But what I've learned to do, number one, get your office away from the kitchen. Very important. Always go to work like you always thought you would. That's really important as well. You're getting dressed, you're working out in the morning. Don't stop your routine. You're going to get in trouble. Let everyone know what your hours are. Absolutely, very key. But the thing that helped me the most, without a doubt, is I have my iWatch that I wear in my office. Every 52 minutes, either in my computer, my Mac, or here, I get a bing, and that means get the hell up and go do something for 5 minutes. Because believe it or not, people are so worried about productivity. Productivity can go up when you're at home, but you can get caught in the weeds. So make sure you get a break every 52 minutes.
Awesome advice. Angela from our New York office says, when you're new, a lot of people don't reply to your email or messages, but then you try again in a few weeks. What's the line between being persistent and annoying?
Persistent and pain in the ass is what she's asking, right? So, so that's, and I appreciate that. Look, if you are persistent, I believe persistent pays off, but you got to see what they say and how they react to your, if they've never responded to what you're doing. I talk about this in the book about the no response and how you react to a no response. You can, and only after 7 to 10 tries, you can try a no response email. I won't go into it in depth, but it's basically saying, hey, I tried to connect, sorry we didn't, here's why I was trying. We have found mathematically we're getting about 1/3 of our no reaction, no responses to come back and respond. So there is a cadence to that as well. By the way, I don't believe once a week. You gotta be careful. You're saying you're calling once a week, it's not that important then. If you're calling a couple of times a week or every day, it must be urgent. So is it urgent or not?
Jamie asks if your 27-second intro also works for emails.
To do it in an email? Never. Do it. It's meant just for the phone call. You're not going to read it and go, okay. And then they say yes. And then what? They're going to email you back? No,
right.
No, you got to do it on the phone.
All right. Well, we only have a minute or two left. Sam is asking once again, can you give him the iPaid acronym one more time? Maybe it's a strong way to go out for the long weekend.
Sure. You're going to identify what you got to do that day. No more than 10 things. You're going to prioritize what you're going to do that day. 3 buckets: working in, working on the business, and personal. You're going to allocate time, people, and money to get those done. You're going to implement, do it. That's the hard part. And whatever you want to do, then you're going to delegate or delete. I'm a big delegator. Massimo Group was 1 person 12 years ago. Massimo Group is over 40 people today because I delegate and I trust the people I work with. And by the way, last I'll tell you, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong damn room.
So Rod, most important question before we leave, how do they connect with you if they want to sign up for your coaching? How do they, what's the website? How do they, get on your list?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, James, for this opportunity. This was freaking awesome. I always love working with you first and foremost. So thank you for this. Anyone else, you check out Massimo, Massimo, -group.com. I will guarantee you we have programs for every level of experience and or success, as well as now every budget. We have a new program as well. So if you're interested in upping the game and taking the next step, we would love to talk to you.
Awesome, Rob. We thank you so much. This has been incredible. And everyone just remember, knowing isn't doing. So I hope you took a lot of great notes like I did, put them into action, but definitely also enjoy the long weekend. And I know Rod said, definitely leave time for personal and family. So wishing you all a great long weekend and getting back and putting these plans into action next week. Thanks again, Ron. All the best.
All the best, James. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.